Hey guys, it's Joel, and I wanted to talk about something that I see coming up with a lot of people and a lot of patients over the COVID outbreak at this point. Um, and that's, how to deal with your children and how to feel okay with the way that we deal with our children and the limitations that are on our life right now. And I think the first thing is that there's not really an easy way to do this. There's nobody that has an easy answer, and if somebody's given you an easy answer, then they're wrong. You know, uh, the schedule that's so important for kids is a tip that's thrown around a lot, that you need to keep a schedule. But the kind of routine of our old life, there were a lot of parts of that weren't great. And I think a lot of times we're not really thinking about that right now. So you need to get your kids a snack, depending on their age, a lunchtime, a bedtime, a routine. But look at the things that you had to do for your old way of working or the old way of doing school that aren't working anymore. A lot of the reasons that kids are not happy right now with school is because they're not learning, and kids are happy when they're learning. When kids aren't happy with school, it's because it's failing to teach them. When it's succeeding at teaching them, they love it. And if you can teach them something that you care about, that you're interested in, that's just going to be huge. You may not have time to do this all the time. You're not a bad parent if you have a day where you have to work and you tell your kid that you've got to do that. But find ways to do things that you haven't done before. You want to social distance, but there's plenty of places out in the world that you can go that don't have a lot of people, that aren't a Big Oak Mountain Park or a beach or something. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm assuming most of you are too. I went to Ebenezer Swamp. I went to Falling Rock Falls. Nobody there. And my daughter had so much fun, and I don't know a ton about natural stuff. I'm not a naturalist, but we were able to identify a mushroom that she talked about. We were able to identify a different kind of mushroom, learn different kinds of trees, because I have a cell phone. And kids want to learn at this age. That kind of 2 to 13, they're just growing so quick, and they want to suck all that stuff up. And toy companies get this, which is why you've got the Pokemon. There's 51s of the Pokemon, and then this one becomes that one, and kids catalog all that stuff. But make it something that's meaningful, that's your passion. Share some of your passions or your interests, or if you haven't had time to develop those, something that you've wanted to do for a while that you haven't had time. Time's an important resource. You're not going to have time to do this every day, to go for a hike or to do an art project on YouTube or to do a dance class on YouTube or dig a garden or do something new if you can that you haven't done before. And that's going to be a way to spend meaningful time. But if you don't have the time, don't worry about that so much. The ways that you can handle the limitations on this experience are that kids kind of know when you're lying to them, even pretty early. And when you can use this as a lesson to teach them how to handle their emotions based on how you're handling your emotions. When you can say, I'm scared about this too. I don't know how long it'll go on. I don't like being in the house. You don't want to overwhelm them, and you don't want to give them anything that they can't handle. But you can show them that you have an emotional reality that you're dealing with too, and that you're still having to do things and that you're still doing it. That's really important. Also, remember, kids feel things differently than us, especially if you've got teenagers right now. We all feel emotion in our body before we get to our head. Those negative emotions fire up our amygdala, our fight or flight center, the alarm center, and it comes online and tells us something's wrong with the world or your environment or yourself. You got to change it. And then our prefrontal cortex filters through that with our beliefs and our other awarenesses and tries to make sense of what we need to do. That happens to everybody. But with teenagers, it's an alien highway, that connection. They're acting on things, they're doing things before they even realize that they're acting on emotion. Take that into consideration. When you're looking at your kids' behaviors, say, this isn't normal behavior. What's going on? I think that maybe you're feeling something. Could you tell me about that? And give them the opportunity to kind of teach you, or them the opportunity to introspect. You may know what's going on. You may have done this before when you're 16, 17. But let them figure that out. And it's going to be a learning process for them. Again, learning is the best way to cope with stress here. Learning about ourselves, about our emotions. This is an opportunity to do things in a way that we haven't done before. I think having some compassion and some generosity is always going to be extremely healing. for your children, that you get to spend this time with them, that you appreciate that they were able to be quiet while you did your work, that meant so much to you. And what did you do? What did you work on today? Showing a genuine interest. All of those things are, truisms, but they're true. I also think that when you're able to have a sense of compassion for your children, it starts with having a sense of radical compassion for yourself. And that means the parts of yourself that you may not necessarily be proud of or be comfortable with or have dealt with before this happened, because you didn't have to. But we all have a vulnerable child. Some of our vulnerable children had a rocky relationship with life that we didn't deal with for years, but that vulnerable child is still in there, and it may be having a temper tantrum right now in you. You may never have been able to come to terms with your own sadness, the things that have been done to you, your own anger, your own insecurity, because nobody told you that it was going to be okay. You're an adult, and now it's time for you to be able to do that for yourself, but you have to admit that those parts are there. You have to be willing to go to them and hold them and comfort them and tell your own vulnerable child that this is going to be okay, that it is all right to be with the uncertainty of this, it is all right to be with the mystery of this, it is all right to validate those feelings and feel them, but that we will move on and we will be all right, even if we don't know what that looks like. That we have to have faith that we will. And you have to do that in here before you can do that out here with your own children. I talk about the inner critic a lot. And that inner critic runs in families. It gets passed down in generations because you have a critical parent or a lack of something in the family or in society. And that lack creates this inner voice that I'm doing something wrong. And in order to not suffer negative repercussions for doing something wrong, I have to do this all the time. And it becomes obsessive. And some people have that over-identified. Some people are not over-identified with that voice. But if you've got it and you're over-identified with it, it probably came from some societal force or a critical caregiver. You talk about the cycle of violence a lot, that runs in families, and you have to break that cycle. And that's true, you should. But that inner critic is also this cycle of internal violence. We pass that on to our kids. We got it from somewhere, our parents got it from somewhere, and we pass that on to our children when we can't be okay with what they are doing, when we can't let them know that it is okay just to be human, to make mistakes, that doesn't make you a bad person, that doesn't make you unlovable, that just makes you have an opportunity for growth, and that you either take that or you don't. And this voice gets passed on to our kids so much. Don't do that. This is a great opportunity to sit down and look at some of the processes that we may not have had a chance to look at otherwise in our families and in ourselves. If you have any questions about any of this, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you so much.